And excuse us, folks. We're just getting set up, making sure everything is working with our Facebook and all of that. All right, we're going to move that over here so I can see on the chroma key. And good evening, North Texas. I'm Joshua Weisel here in the Weather 225 Storm Studios. As you can see, right behind me, we have the current radar view across the Dallas and Fort Worth area. Before we get into radar coverage, I just want to show y'all real quick. This is our current severe thunderstorm watch for parts of North Texas. This includes areas west of I-35 that we cover across the area. In North Texas, and that goes until 11 p.m. Again, that is for the areas in yellow that we are concerned for. So that's over the next 2 hours or so. We have the severe thunderstorm watch in effect. So let's go to our live Doppler radar, and I'm going to resize this just so it's not out of proportion. Okay, so what you see right here, we're going to pause it and go in real time across the area. There's this very dangerous storm that is currently right over the Jacksboro area that we're covering, and this has had a history of producing some large to even giant hail, up to 3 to maybe even higher, up to about 4-inch hail back in northwest Texas, and right now it is over the Jacksboro area producing possibly some 2-inch hail over the Jacksboro area. So if you live in the Jacksboro area, just be very alert for some very large hail, up to tennis ball size at this time. It does look like it's weakening, as you can see. The past couple of scans, you saw those black and white colors on radar, and even gray on the radar. We haven't seen that color with this color table yet so far for how long we've been using it. So this has been some giant hail with this. But fortunately, as you can see, we saw those colors that we have not seen on this radar yet with that color table. And now that we're in real time, it looks like it has gone down, but still, it is something that you want to be keeping an eye on for sure. I'm going to try and put up a tool in the background real quick that'll help us to track this. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit real quick and turn on the road place file that is not showing up. There we go. So if you are unaware of what this area is, this is Jacksboro, which is areas west of I-35, and I'm going to zoom out real quick. This is the Dallas and Fort Worth area where my hand is over right now, and these warnings are just to the north and west of Dallas and Fort Worth. This is over parts of Jack County at this time. So again, that's the Jacksboro area. That's Highway 281. This is Highway 380. Kind of where they meet is where that hail core is located. And in fact, this is our hail core tracker, and I'll zoom in just to show you. Right along Highway 380, right on Highway 281 is where we're seeing this large to potentially giant hail up to 2, maybe 3 inches in diameter. This storm has had a history of producing some large damaging hail. We've seen photos on media and reports coming into the National Weather Service of this large hail as it moves across parts of North Texas. And let's see. I'm going to see if I can put a track on this real quick from the current location to the south and east at about 45 miles an hour or so. Here we go. And as this loads, I will be kind of pointing out the communities in the area. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. As you can see, this will kind of approach closer to the Dallas and Fort Worth area here by about 9:54. It'll approach counties just west of Dallas and Fort Worth, the immediate Dallas and Fort Worth Metroplex. And when we say the immediate Dallas and Fort Worth Metroplex, we mean the 4 central counties in the DFW metro area. And if you're unaware with the counties, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more just so we get the cities to kind of disappear from that, and you can see. So these are the counties of concern right now. So probably Parker County here by about 9:54. That's in the next 25 minutes or so that we will have to be watching to see if this will become a concern. We have this threat over here. It's in Jack County. It's moving to the south and east at about 45 miles an hour. We're warning these areas ahead just because this is weakening, but there's still 2-inch hail with it. And it doesn't look like it's just going to dissipate and kind of die off relatively soon. So parts of Parker County, I would be aware of this. So just be mindful of that. And while, let's see, I'm going to log in and see if there's any more reports coming out for this. But again, this is over parts of Jack County. Right now, over Jacksboro, radar is indicating about 2-inch hail as it moves to the south and east at about 45 miles an hour. This is a quick heads up to parts of Wise County, parts of Parker County, as this moves to the southeast at about 45 miles an hour. Checking for any more warnings as this develops. And we're looking at other information off to the side just to give you the absolute up-to-date information as these storms kind of move and barrel towards the immediate metro area. Let's see. And it looks like the National Weather Service is going to issue a downstream warning for parts of Parker, Wise, and eastern Palo Pinto counties here in the next little bit. So again, if you live in Palo Pinto County, Parker, and parts of Wise County, I would be very mindful of this as this is moving into your area. Large hail up to 1.5 to maybe 2+ inch hail is associated with this storm. And this has had a history of producing 2 to 3, even up to a little bit higher than 3-inch hail as it has moved from the south Wichita Falls area off to the south and east. I will call out some communities and zoom in this radar. So this will be in the Runaway Bay area by about 9:46. This will be near Reno at 10:16. And we have that new warning that just came out. We're going to go post this on our social media real quick, so bear with us, folks. And again, that new downstream warning should start to include on the map here shortly. See, trying to read that warning just to see what size hail they're actually going to be issuing with this. I'm going to put this into motion while we post on our social media real quick, folks, so bear with us. Okay, so as you can see, that's the new warning that just came out with that storm, and this is going to be for 2-inch hail still. So there's some pretty significant hail with this as it moves kind of to the south and east towards parts of Palo Pinto, Parker, and Wise counties. So we're concerned once again because of this giant hail threat as it's moving into the area. 2-inch hail is still big enough that it can shatter windshields and cause some property damage. So this is very concerning, what we're seeing coming into parts of the Metroplex area. Fortunately, it is weakening, but as you can see, still 2-inch hail is being indicated by radar at this time. We're trying to see if there's anything new. Again, 2-inch hail, 60-mile-an-hour winds are possible with this. The winds are certainly a threat. 60 mile an hour winds are possible with this. But we are concerned, and as you can see, it's going back up again. That's radar indicated 3-inch hail, folks, right along 281, moving into parts of Parker County, Palo Pinto County, and Wise County. So we are concerned for that. Because once again, that is a dangerous situation, as that is some big hail that could be coming into parts of the metro area, and we don't like seeing that. And we're trying to see if there's any spotter reports coming out of this at this time. We're going to have to go, radar's indicating, so that right there, that's indicating about 3.5-inch hail on radar. And now, folks, you have to take into consideration that might not be the ground truth, as this is looking fairly high up, but we're concerned just because there is a history of this sized hail with it, as it has moved through parts of western Texas. This is, again, a very dangerous storm as it moves to the south and east. Again, this will be in the northwestern portions of Parker County by about 9:54, and this will be closer to central Parker County by about 10:09 p.m. So that's in the next 20 minutes or so. So we're going to be keeping a close eye on this storm as it approaches the Metroplex area. Again, some very large 2 to maybe even possibly 3-inch hail will be possible with this storm. Send now. Okay, so I'm going to actually go to the, going to take that track off real quick. And let's see, we're starting to see those gray colors back. This is just right over Joplin and Perrin, and you can see there's a little bit of an inflow notch. These storms are too high, and there's too much dry air in the area that it doesn't look like this is necessarily a tornado threat. Sometimes you can get these notches on radar just because of the hail threat with it. We call these hail spikes with it. And certainly that is not out of the case just because we're seeing this large area of hail currently over Highway 281 in North Texas. And we are concerned, once again, because of this hail threat that is moving near the Perrin area as we speak. So again, if you live in Perrin, Joplin, and into parts of Wise, Palo Pinto, Parker counties, and even Jack County, it's over Jack County right now. You need to be in shelter right now, not because of a tornado, but you just want to be indoors and away from windows because some very large, possibly 3-inch hail, as you see on the radar, is moving south and east, and there it is crossing Highway 281 right now with a large hail core. This storm is producing some fairly large hail with it, possibly, as we speak. So I'm going to be taking a look at the velocities one more time. As you can see, here's some higher winds kind of just west of 281 as we speak. That could be, let me actually sample those on radar. The radar's indicating that's about 66 miles an hour. That's about 55, and that's about a 60-mile-an-hour wind gust. So in addition to a giant hail threat of 2 to 3 inches, we're looking at a possible damaging wind threat that looks to be probably about 60 miles an hour. And again, this is looking higher up in the atmosphere. So some of these winds, if we were to sample them, would probably not be as strong as they are on the ground, but we're seeing these stronger winds aloft. So it's giving us a good idea of what could be happening at the surface. Not really seeing any sort of photos or anything coming in at this moment. Trying to check and see if anyone has said anything on some of these rooms that we're in. Nothing new at this time, so I'm going to go back And we're going to go back into reflectivity real quick. And if you're unaware of what's going on at this time, again, I'm Joshua Weisel here in the Weather 225 Storm Studios. This is western North Texas. This is close to the Dallas and Fort Worth Metroplex, but it is not in the immediate Dallas and Fort Worth Metroplex. I'm going to zoom out and then zoom in just a little bit closer so you can see. This is Dallas and Fort Worth. This is Dallas, Tarrant, Denton, and Collin counties. These are the 4 central DFW counties. Just west of I-35, we have a giant hail threat with storms that could be producing 2 to maybe even 3-inch hail as this storm leaves Jack County and moves into Parker County, parts of Palo Pinto County and Wise County. And this storm has had a history of producing some large to even very large hail as it has left sort of the northwestern portions of Texas near the Texas Panhandle and Wichita Falls. We've seen 3-inch hail, baseball, even bigger than baseballs with this storm at times. And now it is moving into parts of our viewing area. And as it does that, it approaches areas that are closer to the Metroplex with a large hail threat. Looking at this latest radar scan, I am pleased to see that the colors on radar seem to be going down again. So fortunately at this time, it looks like it could be weakening, and we definitely want to see it weaken. As you can see, this is our hail core tracker. This is a massive area of potentially, again, large to very large hail, up to 2 to 3 inches in diameter. To the north of Highway 380, there's this new area that we're going to have to be watching that could be producing 1 to 2 inch hail as well. And let's zoom in on that just a little bit. That's south of the Cundiff area. That's just to the south of Highway 59 and to the north of 380. So we have these 2 areas of hail that we'll have to be watching closely as it is moving across parts of Jack County, now into parts of Parker, Palo Pinto, and Wise County. Again, if you're new to the area, this is for areas west of Fort Worth and I-35. The storm is moving to the south and east at around 45 miles an hour. And we're concerned because mineral wells, you're going to be close to this. It may not hit you, but you're going to see some storm activity with it. It's probably not going to be the large hail, but you'll get some rain with it, as there's kind of this little notch area to the back. We'll be keeping an eye out on that, not necessarily for a tornado threat, but you got some good inflow coming into this storm. And here's a tool that we don't show too often, and fortunately, this has actually gone down. We haven't showed it on this, but we were looking at it earlier. This is the Enhanced Echo Tops, and what that simply means is this is the radar scanning the sky and seeing just how tall the tops of these storms are. And it gave us readings earlier of almost 60,000 feet with these storms as they were in northwestern Texas. Fortunately, the color for the 60,000 feet and plus is in the reds and pinks, and right now we're seeing dark orange, so we're not seeing those tops like it was earlier, but the updrafts are still strong and supportive of large hail. It's just that these storms are not as tall, so hopefully that hail core will start to go down once these storms start to drop in height. And I'm going to sample that area right there. That's 50,000 feet right here on the 3 corners of the counties. This is also 50,000 feet just west of Decatur. And let's see. There's a new area. If I move the radar, let's see if I move, there we go. Right here, this is just between Wise and Denton County. Let's check our hail core trackers. You can see a very weak hail core with this, maybe some pea-sized hail and some lightning activity with that. However, I think this is just kind of a heavy rain activity cell, but nothing severe at the moment. Even the winds, what's that, like 45, excuse me, probably about like winds in the 40s. So this is all below severe weather levels. And in order for a storm to be considered severe, it needs to be producing winds of 58 miles an hour plus and hail up to 1 inch in diameter, or producing a tornado. Obviously, you'd need a tornado for a warning. But in order to get a storm severe, you need hail up to 1 inch in diameter and winds up to 58 miles an hour. Fortunately, at this moment, the one that is moving in parts of Denton and Wise County does not look severe at this time. Just looks like some heavy rain activity with this. But we'll be keeping an eye out on it just to be safe. But don't worry about this. You could be hearing some thunder in the areas between Denton and Decatur along Highway 380. We're actually hearing lightning with this in Irving, and we had a thought that this was actually going to start popping up ahead of it because we're seeing some lightning about 30 miles ahead of the storm just a little bit earlier. And as you can see, it kind of just popped out ahead of the storm. So we're not really thinking that this one's going to be severe at this time. We'll be keeping a close eye out on it. But the main concern is the storm to the south and west over our neighbors in Perrin at this time. So right now, the main hail core is just south of Joplin. This is Highway 199. This is Highway 281. This is crossing out of Parker County into portions of Wise and Palo Pinto County. And this is the strongest storm. And as you can see, we're starting to see those gray colors again. So that's of concern. We don't want this to go back up in strength because this has had a history of producing some large to very large hail with it in the past. And we don't want this to cause damage to life or property in any portions of our viewing area. We're hoping that this dies off, but until it dies off, we'll be covering this here on our Facebook, so stay tuned with us. We'll be keeping an eye on this storm as it moves to the south and east. But if you live, just a quick heads up, so North Salesville and Agnes, I hope I'm saying that right, be alert for the potential for some large hail here in the next little bit, as the storm looks like it's probably getting a little bit stronger again, potentially some 3-inch hail with that. And again, we're hoping that this dies down because we don't want it to be producing that hail in our area. But until it weakens, we'll be live with this, covering it very closely. Let's go back to our hail core tracker. As you can see, that hail core has kind of gotten a little bit bigger again. So at the moment, it looks like it's keeping its trend of strengthening. And as you can see, the tops came back. So that's about 60,000 feet. Right just south of 199. So we're seeing that height come back, and we don't want to see that because when you have storms that are tall like this, up in the 50,000 feet range, you get strong updrafts that will be supportive for carrying large hail. And when you get that, rain droplets and hail that has developed will become stuck to each other in those strong updrafts, and these storms will carry that for a while until it becomes so big to about 3 inches that it finally starts to fall to the atmosphere. And we don't want that big hail again over any of the areas that we cover. So we're keeping a close eye on that. And it looks like no one has said anything else at this time. I'm going to check that warning just to see what it says, if they've updated it. National Weather Service still saying 2 inches. So we're gonna keep saying about 2 to 3, just because radar's indicating some pretty large, up to 3-inch hail. So 2 inches is the warning. We're going to say anywhere between 2 to 3 inches, just because this storm has had a history and it is tall enough, and it's had a history of producing this hail. So we're going to be keeping a close eye on that. Again, 2 to 3-inch hail now moving out of Parker County and into parts of Palo Pinto, Wise, and Parker counties at this time. Let's see. And as you can see, I'm going to move the radar just to the north and west. As this storm moved over parts of Young and Jack County, as you can see, almost 3-inch hail was reported here near Loving. Almost 3-inch hail right here on Highway 281, and where 281 meets 114. Almost 2-inch hail in Jacksboro and just south of Jacksboro and areas south of 380. So fortunately, we're not seeing these baseball-sized hail conformations at this time, and we're glad about that, because golf ball-sized hail, which is about this size, is still damaging, but it's nothing catastrophic like 3-inch plus hail. So we're going to be hoping that this hail core continues to die down. let's look at those velocities again. As you can see, there's that little bitty, I'm going to go back to reflectivity, there's this notch area kind of feeding into the storm, and you have this kind of tail feature. Again, we're not too concerned about a tornado at this time. It doesn't look like the conditions are really favorable for a tornado. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that notch, though, just because there could be some strong winds in there. And just north of Salesville and south of Perrin, as you can see, there's these strong winds that looks to be about 60, maybe even 65 miles an hour. Again, this is higher up in the atmosphere, so that may not actually be what's happening at the ground, but I would still be cautious for some strong winds kind of along Highway 281 between Salesville and Perrin at this time. And again, here's our hail core tracker. That one to the north has started to kind of go down in strength, so that's good news. But again, we're still keeping a close tab on this one, just now moving east, of Highway 281. I'm going to check something real quick. If it'll load. Okay, so that's a lightning update. It looks like we're having some trouble with this at this time. And we can actually hear some thunder here at our studios in Irving. So, and if you're in the Dallas and Fort Worth Metroplex, there's no storms actually in the Dallas and Fort Worth Metroplex at this time. There's some lightning kind of being thrown out ahead of these storms. There's some storms right over Denton County, but there's a lot of lightning kind of being thrown out ahead of these storms. So you'll hear some thunder across Dallas and Fort Worth, depending on where you live, but you're probably not going to see this severe weather activity, as you can see. Fortunately, it looks like the hail core looks to be going down again. So we're hoping that it starts to continue its trend in weakening instead of strengthening as it moves closer into parts of Parker County over here in the next little while or so. And it looks like the National Weather Service has... It looks like the National Weather Service is expanding the current severe thunderstorm watch to include parts of Tarrant County. That's the latest information that we are being given at this time. So the National Weather Service is expanding the severe thunderstorm watch to include portions of Tarrant County here in the next little while or so, just because they're concerned with this storm and its trends. Hopefully it weakens and we don't see that enter the actual Metroplex area. But again, we're going to be keeping a close eye on that as it moves closer. Still haven't gotten any updates on that yet. Let's go back to Max 2. This is our current severe thunderstorm watch across the area. As you can see, western North Texas is included in this watch. This is until 11 o'clock tonight. It does include Young, Jack, Wise, Palo Pinto, and Parker counties in North Texas. So we're going to be tracking these storms as they move into areas closer to Dallas and Fort Worth as they get closer to our area. Let's go back to reflectivity real quick. I'm going to go back and just take a broad look at the area. Again, this is the Fort Worth site. This is Fort Worth. This is that storm that's approaching areas near Tarrant County. This is Parker County, Palo Pinto, Young, and Wise County. Jack County. Young County is with Graham. Jack is Jacksboro. But again, we're watching this supercell as it moves into portions of North Texas closer to the I-35 corridor. Again, some large damaging hail up to 2 inches is possible with this storm. In Denton, you're getting some thunder right now, as well as some moderate to even heavy rain activity, but there's nothing severe with this storm. In fact, our hail core tracker isn't even seeing any type of hail activity. There's just a very weak core right now over the Denton area, so I would say maybe pea-sized hail, nothing larger than that. However, main storm looks to be just north of Mineral Wells, in portions of Parker County. I'm going to see. And it looks like we're gonna have to be keeping a close eye on this, as that tail feature is starting to look a little bit more interesting. So this is the velocities, and when you see greens and reds that are kind of locked together, that's something of concern. We're not really seeing strong rotation with this. I'm going to go back to reflectivity, but you can definitely see there's a little hook feature starting to develop just to the east of Salesville. So again, we're seeing this little hook feature on radar. It's rotating. There's no threat of an imminent tornado at this time, and there's no tornado warnings, but there's still just this notch feature right here on radar that we're going to have to be keeping a close eye on. And it looks like some strong winds in that area, but we're not seeing necessarily any sort of immediate tornado threat or strong rotation. I'm going to look higher up in the storm with different tilts just to see. And there's that storm. As you can see, that's still that hook area that's kind of over the Salesville area at this time. It does look there. There's a better scan right there. Okay, so that's something. Okay, so this is our bad. The radar was already tilted a little bit higher than usual. We were having issues earlier when we were looking at the radar, but we didn't reset it. So here's the area of concern. Again, we're seeing that kind of hook on radar, and while there's no immediate threat of a tornado, we're still concerned for this area of rotation kind of developing. As you can see, there's a hook echo on radar. It's, again, no immediate threat of a tornado warning, no tornado warning at this time, but it's still something that we're going to be mindful of. And this isn't really looking good, that the hail core has kind of spiked up once again. So you can see 3-inch hail now estimated on radar once again, and that is just west of areas near Springtown. And this is Highway 199, this is Highway 281. It's just between Highway 180 and 199, and it is just east of Highway 281. I'm going to look at a different tool real quick that is not on the screen. And I want to see from this different perspective. As you can see, here's a supercell that we have moving to the south and east towards Dallas and Fort Worth, and we're going to be checking a few different sites just to see what all is happening with this storm. Again, here's a little bit of rotation kind of just east of the Salesville area. Keeping an eye on it. Again, there's no immediate threat of a tornado at this time, but we're still just going to have to be mindful of it, just because it is clearly there with that new hook feature, in addition to the very large hail that will be moving into portions of Parker County just north of Weatherford. Again, 3-inch hail is possible with that. 2 to 3-inch hail, if you will, moving just to the south and east, north of Weatherford. In fact, if I was in Weatherford, I would be weather alert as this storm approaches your area. And we have a new mesoscale discussion from the Storm Prediction Center. Storm expected to gradually weaken with very large to very large hail ongoing. So we have a new mesoscale discussion that is a brief forecast update on a particular storm or region by the Storm Prediction Center. They usually issue those because of incoming watches and areas of concern. So it's these brief short-term forecast updates that they issue to acknowledge either a storm rarely or areas that an incoming watch will be issued. And the Storm Prediction Center has highlighted this storm in particular and said that it will be weakening. However, until it is gone, it will be continuing to have a threat. for some large to very large hail as it moves to the south and east. And that's, again, the storm that we're highlighting right here, just north of the Weatherford area, as it tracks towards North Texas. And looking at the information off to the side. And it looks like our little hail marker just disappeared from radar. So that might be just a quick glitch in the system. But again, wow, look at that. That is concerning. Not just for, again, it's not for particularly a tornado threat, but that hail core looks to be coming back up, and we don't want to see this coming back up because this has once again had a history of producing some large hail with it, but we don't want to see that coming into our area. We don't want to see this over those areas as well, because regardless, even though these are more rural areas in western Texas, this is still potentially impacting someone's property at this time, because again, that's some very large hail, and that's why we're live right now. We are concerned and wanting to give our neighbors in western North Texas a heads up, as well as track this as it approaches our immediate Dallas and Fort Worth metroplex. I'm going to take a look at that hail core tracker one more time. As you can see, it's still about 2, maybe even 3-inch hail. Is still just north of Highway 180 and south of Highway 199. And I want to go back to reflectivity and see this storm's general motion. This is over the last 2 hours or so. It looks like this is definitely moving to the east-southeast. So, again, I'd say probably headed towards about Highway 377 if it holds together here in the next little while or so. Let's see if there's any sort of updates or photos of any more hail. Okay, so we're seeing some reports of some quarter-sized hail. Again, that's good because we don't want this to be continuing with the very large hail threat of about 2 to 3 inches in diameter. So we're glad to see that there's, and as you can hear in the background, we're getting some lightning here in Irving. But we're glad to see that the hail reports are coming in of more quarter-sized and even possibly half-dollar size hail instead of that 2 to 3 inch hail that we saw that was giant earlier. And in fact, we have a new little meso icon there with that storm just north of Mineral Wells, and we're keeping an eye out on it. Boy, and I tell you what, again, that hail core looks like it's still going strong, and even near Decatur. I'm going to push the radar down to the south. As you can see, this area near Decatur starting to get that hail core more visible with that storm as well. Hopefully that area weakens. Hopefully this area weakens, because again, we don't want that large hail affecting life and property for areas west of I-35. This is I-35 right here. That's Denton. This is Fort Worth. I-35 splits down the middle of Tarrant and Denton counties. So areas west of I-35, we're still seeing this large hail threat. We're going to get a new radar scan here shortly. And there's a lot of clutter on the radar right now. So these purple triangles that you see over this area of spin that we're talking about, these are meso icons. So here you can see this is a low-level lock for rotation. There is definitely rotation with it, but it doesn't look at this time like there's an immediate tornado threat. But it is something we're going to be keeping an eye on. As you can see, there's a very visible hook feature to it, but it doesn't look like an immediate tornado threat, but we're going to be keeping a close eye on it just because it is there. So there's no reason to fear with this at this point. It doesn't look like an immediate tornado threat is occurring with this. but we'll be keeping an eye out on that. The threat that you need to be worried about is for some large hail up to quarter, maybe even $half size. And we're lowering that just because at this point, it looks like the reports that are coming in are just about quarter to $half size, rather than the 3 inch. Oh, and that was weird. The 3 inch hail that we saw just a little bit ago. So that's some good news with that. It looks like that storm might reach portions of Tarrant County here in the next little while or so. There's no news of an incoming warning for Tarrant County, but still, if I was in western Tarrant County and you're listening to us, I would be very mindful of this storm as it moves into western Tarrant County over the next 30 minutes or so. It will hopefully weaken before it gets there, but still, again, some large hail will be possible with that storm, and even some strong gusty winds of about 60 miles an hour. And as you can see, here we're seeing this little area of rotation with this hook. The radar might not be doing it full justice, though, because it looks like that circulation is just out a little bit ahead of the storm. But again, there's no immediate tornado threat. We know there's that hook echo feature on radar. We know that there's a little bit of rotation with it. We're letting you know, but it doesn't look like there's an immediate tornado threat with this. It will show the kind of scary feature, but we're not seeing any sort of reports of any wall clouds at this point with it. We're not seeing any immediate tornado threats with this at this time. As we mentioned, there's some drier air in North Texas, and that drier air might be able to keep this storm from going tornadic, because you need more moist conditions for storms in order to become at that level, and it doesn't look like our moisture is quite there to support that activity. No new updates at this time. And the good news is we're starting to see some more reports coming in over this storm in Parker County of penny-sized hail. So again, we're still concerned for large hail, even though there's reports of penny-sized coming in. We're glad to see that there's some smaller hail reports coming out of this rather than, baseball-sized hail or anything like that. So we're glad that this is looking more like a 1.5 inch to smaller-sized hail core at this point. Still, there's some good echo tops with this at this time. Again, if you're just now tuning in with us, this is a tool that we don't show quite often, but this is called enhanced echo tops, and this is the radar looking up into the storm and showing us where the top of this thunderstorm is at in the atmosphere. And at this moment, as you can see, we've mentioned the red colors are up into the upper 50s, about 50,000 feet to about 60,000 feet. Purples is about 45,000 feet to 50,000 feet. And once you get into the yellows and greens, that's lower in the atmosphere. But once you see these storms that are just about 50,000 feet or higher, you have the potential for some large to very large hail, because the storms are so tall that they have very strong updrafts that will be supportive of holding hail in the updrafts for quite some time, and that hail could become large to very large as it sticks to other raindrops and other pieces of hail that are floating in that updraft until it becomes so big that it falls to the earth. So, and again, as I say that, you can see, fortunately, that area of red that we were seeing just a minute ago is not as visible. It is kind of shortened into two little areas. So hopefully we'll see this storm gradually weaken and not be as tall, because again, we want this hail core to go down. And even the hail core itself, as you can see, it went from 3 inches estimated on radar to about 2 inches. And that area that we saw just a little bit ago that was just a broad area of pink and white colors on radar, that area has gone down to a more slim area just north of Weatherford. But if you're in Weatherford, I would be alert, just because some large hail could be approaching your area as we speak. I'm going to post something real quick just for that Weatherford storm to give our neighbors a heads up. And if you can hear in the background, I don't know if you can hear that, but we got some good lightning activity here in Irving, so there's some louder rumbles. of thunder. And we're back. Thanks for bearing with us right now. And again, that warning is kind of shortened here. That warning is clipped off parts of western Parker County. So again, if you're west of the Weatherford area, kind of right between the border of Palo Pinto and Parker County, you're in the clear right now of this storm. But again, our neighbors here in Tarrant County were concerned that there could be activity that moves into that area. No update from the Weather Service or anything like that at this point. But we're going to be continuing to keep an eye out on that, as you can see. Fortunately, that hail core looks to have gone down quite a bit with this storm. And again, that's something that we're going to be hoping for as, again, it approaches the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Not necessarily Dallas, but it approaches parts of our DFW area, and that area that in particular is the Fort Worth area, western Tarrant County. Let's see if there's any new updates. And again, that area that we're seeing, we've mentioned there's no threat of an imminent tornado with it. We know there's that scary hook echo feature that you see, and there is some rotation with it. But fortunately, we have not seen any reports, and there's spotters out in the field with this. We have not seen any reports, excuse me, of a wall cloud or any sort of lowerings that are spinning like that. So fortunately, once again, we're not seeing any sort of lowering reports. We're not seeing any type of wall cloud or any kind of reports like that out of that area. We're still concerned with it, and even when you get these kind of hook echo features, you can sometimes get a spike in the radar or a hook feature just because of the very large hail that's in the storm. So again, this has had a history of producing some very large hail. It is a supercell that has produced quite a bit of hail since about the southern Wichita Falls area. As we mentioned earlier, this had some big 3 to even 3.5, maybe even a little bit bigger sized hail with it, as it was in northwest Texas just hours ago. But it has remained strong as it approaches the Dallas and Fort Worth area. Again, if you live in Dallas, we know that we keep saying that. It is a DFW Metroplex, and this is part of the Metroplex right here. This is Denton County, and this is Tarrant County. However, for Dallas, and I'll zoom out just a little bit, this storm would not affect Dallas. It would affect portions of Tarrant County, but Dallas would be in the clear of this storm. Dallas will see this activity as it moves to the southeast, but this is not severe. This is just maybe some pea-sized hail at the most that is strong with it. But this is just lightning activity in brief, moderate to heavy rainfall. Whereas this storm right now in Parker County moving towards portions of Tarrant County is concerning just because of the numerous reports of large to very large hail as it was in northwestern Texas. And even just a little while ago, we saw reports of quarter-sized hail with it as it was in parts of Parker County. Okay, so it looks like a new severe thunderstorm warning will be issued for parts of western Tarrant County here in the next little bit. There is, again, a very impressive signature um, right north of the Weatherford area. And here's that hail spike. It's looking more like a hail spike than it is a hook echo at this time. So again, this is what we call a hail spike with this storm. There is some rotation with it. As you can see, those greens coming next to the reds, but it doesn't look like an immediate tornado threat. Again, there's no reports of any sort of wall clouds or lowerings like that. However, this is starting to look more like a hail spike than a hook echo, as it is just north of the Weatherford area. So again, that warning will be coming out here shortly. Be checking something real quick just to get when that warning will come in. Okay, so that warning has not been issued yet. So again, a new severe thunderstorm warning will be issued for parts of Tarrant County here shortly. So a quick heads up, western Tarrant County, be alert. This storm is weakening, but it is showing signs of every now and then it will kind of pulse back up and get strong before it weakens a little bit more. So while this is kind of in a roller coaster phase as it approaches western Tarrant County, and even, oh wow, that might be an over exaggeration on radar. Large 2 to 3 inch hail may be approaching the Weatherford area in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, we have that sent out. No new update on that storm. And that hail core spiked up again pretty good. Radar right now is, I put my mouse over that. Radar, that's probably an over exaggeration. But radar is indicating about 3 to 4 inch hail. I think that if you're seeing it on our radar, is just a little bit of an over exaggeration. I'm just giving a friend a heads up that's kind of in this area. Okay, so again, I think that's kind of an over exaggeration, but we're gonna have to be mindful of it because we're getting closer to that radar view. Let's check that hail core one more time. As you've seen, it was getting skinnier and we had some hopes that it was weakening, but right now at this point, it looks like it's gotten just a little bit more of its act together as it's right over the Weatherford area. So Weatherford, I would go ahead and say that you could see potentially 2-inch hail for areas west of 171 along Highway 80. Again, as this hail core is approaching your area, radar showing about 4-inch hail, but I think that that's a little bit of an over exaggeration. As you can hear, there's some loud thunder in our area. But again, maybe 1 to 2 inch hail is approaching the Weatherford area. Let's zoom out because that rumble of thunder just reminded me, if you're tuning in and you live in the Dallas and Fort Worth area and you're hearing thunder like we are here at the studio, there is no severe weather in the actual Dallas area. There's no severe weather in Collin County or Denton County. We have a few loud thunderstorms leaving the Denton County area to parts of Dallas County, and our studios are right over here in Irving. But when you see this area on radar and you're hearing the thunder and lightning, there is no severe weather activity in the Dallas area, in the Denton area, and even Collin County area at this time. Just some loud thunderstorms, brief moderate to heavy rainfall. as well, again, as some lightning. And I'm gonna look at the storm here in Wise in Denton County. As you can see, this is more of a heavy rain activity with this group of storms over here. This is Wise County. This is Denton County. This is along Highway 35 and Highway 81. On reflectivity, you see these purple colors on radar, but these are not anything severe. Maybe some pea-sized hail with the one near Highway 81. But again, this is just going to be some heavy rain with it. And while I'm thinking about it, here's the 1 hour rainfall totals with this storm. As you can see, almost 2 inches of hail here in parts of rain, in Parker County. That's right south of the Wise County border. But these storms are producing about 1 to maybe even 2 inches of rain as it moves over the area at a decent speed, but it's not the fastest speed. So some very heavy rain is occurring with this. That's our point. As you can see, these yellow colors and orange colors are up in the 1.5 inch range for rainfall. And even right here, just south of Highway 199, that's about 2 inches of rainfall here in the last hour. All right, folks, so we're going to be tuning back to this storm right over Weatherford. This is the storm of the night so far. And as you can see, that hail core is kind of spiked up again. It'll continue to do this until it finally dies off. Hopefully, when it reaches closer to the Metroplex, it will continue its weakening trend and die off. But until then, and at the moment, it's not showing any sort of trends like that at this time, unfortunately. And it looks like, and again, this storm is relatively elevated. So we're seeing this rotation on radar, and it doesn't look like, again, immediate tornado threat. We're going to be keeping an eye on that little hook area, but again, that looks more like a hail spike. New severe thunderstorm warning now coming for parts of Tarrant and Parker counties. This will be issued here shortly, so we are giving you the heads up. This storm is moving south and east into parts of Tarrant County, so eastern Parker, and western Tarrant counties. We're about to see a new severe thunderstorm watch pop up here on our radar here shortly. It's not issued yet, but it's coming here in the next probably 5 minutes or so. So quick heads up for western Tarrant County. I'm going to go to the radar and push it off to the west, as you can see. So I'd say Highway 80, and I can't really see that, Highway 820, Highway 30, and Highway 20, kind of where they all meet right here, will probably be in that warning. So we'll have to be watching this little corridor right here. We're going to be keeping an eye on for the potential for some large hail as the storm moves into parts of Tarrant County and continues to be in parts of Parker County. Again, that hail notch is right over the Weatherford area that we've mentioned. And fortunately, as we said earlier, that 4-inch hail that was estimated on radar, that looked to be a little bit over-exaggerated. And the reports are coming in, and this shows you can't fully predict what's going to happen based off of radar. You need that ground truth. And the ground truth is indicating about 1 to even 1.5 inch hail with it. So that's good. Again, we thought that 4-inch hail was a little bit over-exaggerated with this, even though it has had a history of producing some very large hail with it in the past. So we're hoping that we don't see any reports of any hail bigger than that. We're not out of the woods yet. We haven't gotten all the reports in yet, but we're hoping that we didn't see any massive hail with this storm as it moved southeast through parts of Parker County. And we just got that new severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Parker and Tarrant counties, and that is until 11 p.m. Tonight. Okay, so we're going to post this real quick. So bear with us real quick as I go back to reflectivity, get a radar screen grab, and post this to our social media. So we know we're live with this, but we cover and have a pretty big audience across all of our social media sites, and not everyone's tuned in. So when we take these breaks, I apologize for that. We're trying to post and get the latest information out to everyone as fast as we can, just so all of our media sites are alert for the latest information. Again, that's until 11 p.m. for parts of Parker and parts of Tarrant County. Is that the right photo? There we go. There we go. Again, that's 60-mile-an-hour winds and 2-inch hail for parts of Parker County. So kind of right where all these highways come together, and there's that 4-inch hail again. That might become a little bit concerning as we get closer to the radar site. Right here where you see the circle on radar, this is what we call the cone of silence, and that is the 1-mile radius around the radar where the radar can't see, because it's spinning the beam up, and it starts to see about a mile away from the site, and even then it's kind of cluttered, as you can see, these weird spikes across the area. That's just typical for radar. But this storm is relatively close to the radar as it moves to the south and east, and this actually might approach the radar site. So we're going to get a pretty good reading of this here in the next little bit or so. Okay, and we're getting some 1.5-inch hail reports out of Parker County. So unfortunately, it looks like maybe that hill core starting to go up again. Did it not send? Okay, so we're having an issue with it posting to our Twitter, apparently. Okay, so hopefully that's sent out. We're having an issue with our, there it is. We're having an issue with our system, so it wasn't sending out those tweet warnings across our social media. So hopefully that is finally fixed. It looks like it finally posted. So I apologize for looking away at that. I'm going to make sure it's on our Instagram real quick for those viewers. Again, as this approaches more of our populated core of viewers in North Texas. Again, very large hail here near the Weatherford area. Again, we're seeing that notch on radar. As you can hear behind me, we're seeing some good lightning activity here in Irving. So you'll hear some of that lightning as it approaches our area. It'll probably be loud in the background. Hopefully it's not too loud. But right now over Willow Park in Annetta, there could be some very large hail, up to 2 inches in diameter with this. And this is the velocity product. Again, we're still seeing that little area of broad rotation. It doesn't, again, look like an immediate tornado threat. We know that when you see these features, our viewers are going to want to know. So we're going to explain, while there is some broad rotation with it, these storms are elevated in height, and this is in more of a this is in a drier environment than what a storm that would look to produce a tornado would be looking for. So again, this is not really supporting a threat for a tornado, but we're seeing that notch on radar that's visible, and we're keeping an eye out on it. But again, no current threat of a tornado, and we haven't seen any sort of reports of any wall clouds or anything like that. So that's some good news. So just to ease any fears, this doesn't look like a tornado threat as it moves to the south and east. As again, this looks more like a hail spike than it does a hook echo at this time. And again, that 4-inch hail, it's kind of being extreme with it as it's reading it a few scans at a time. So it went from 4 to 2 inches. So the 2 inches is most likely what is happening, as we've seen reports of 1.75-inch hail, which is golf ball sized. So that might be closer to actually what's happening with that. And here's that hail core. So right now that hail core is just along Highway 20 between Willow Park and Annetta and Aledo. I'm going to post that real quick. If you hear us driving and you are on Highway 20, you might be driving towards some large hail if you're in Highway 20 just below, to the south of Willow Park and north of Annetta. So if you're seeing this hail, don't pull under a bridge, or an overpass. If you have to, pull off to the side of the road with your flashers away from traffic safely, and find like a gas station or some sort of covered parking, but do not stop in the middle of the road. You become a threat to those around you on the road. So you want to pull off of the road and find shelter elsewhere. But don't, again, like we said, don't park under an overpass or a bridge or anything like that, because you become a danger to traffic around you, especially in these areas where there's not that much lighting on the roadways. You don't want to pull in the middle of the road or close to the road in the middle of a storm when there's low visibility. There's hail, there's distractions. You don't want to be in harm's way or be a danger to others. So again, right here between Willow Park and Aledo and Annetta, we see this large hail threat continue as 2-inch hail is possible. We've seen, again, as you can see, there's some reports of about 1.25-inch hail. So that's under golf ball size. That's about $half sized hail with that storm. So again, fortunately, we're not seeing any of the 2 to 3-inch size hail reports, but 2-inch hail is still possible with this storm. So we're keeping a close tab on that as it moves to the south and east. And I tell you what, the social media sharing gadget that we have on our computer is just not wanting to work right now. So I'm going to go back to pointing this out, and as I said, it comes back on. So bear with me real quick as we post another update. And no new updates at this time. I'm gonna send this. It looks like at this point that there's. It looks like at this point, if you're hearing sirens in Aledo, there is no tornado threat. We're getting reports that the sirens have sounded in Aledo, but just to give you a heads up, this is a large hail threat. This is not a tornado threat. So that's interesting that the it looks like there's sirens sounding in the Aledo area. Again, the outdoor warning sirens are not just for tornadoes. When you hear the sirens going off, that is for outdoor warning, as the name implies. This is for areas if you're outside, just to let you know there is large hail or damaging winds occurring, and these are sounded by local officials and not the National Weather Service. So if local officials see needed, they will issue this over either a hail threat, wind threat, or tornado threat. Sometimes they won't go off, but it sounds like Aledo, the sirens are going off in that area. Alrighty, folks, so if you're just now tuning in, the time now is 10:31 across North Texas. I am Joshua Weisel here in the Weather 225 Storm Studios. We're doing coverage for an active severe thunderstorm warning across portions of the area, and there's a lot of notifications going off. We know that. Sorry if you hear that in the background. Again, if you're in Aledo and you're hearing sirens outside, there is no tornado. There is no tornado threat. Again, we've heard reports that the Aledo area has sounded its outdoor warning sirens because of the large hail threat, but it does not look like a tornado threat. We know that there's this kind of hook echo looking area on radar that's scary. However, again, at this point, it does not look like an immediate tornado threat. These storms are too elevated and in an environment that's not moist enough for a tornado. So if that storm is looking to produce a tornado, at this point, it's too elevated, and it looks like it's in an environment that is not too supportive to produce a tornado. But at this time, as you can see, it is rotating as it's pulling this large hail kind of around with it, and that large hail could be up to 2 inches in diameter across the area. So Benbrook and Southern White Settlement, I would be aware of this incoming storm that could be producing, again, some large hail with it. And Guntner has reported about a 68 mile an hour wind here just a short time ago. Okay, so this is the main area of concern along Highway 20. Here's Annetta South, Annetta, and Aledo. So this storm is right now over Highway 20, right where Highway 20 kind of meets Highway 30, and there's that new scan. I'm going to push that off. So Benbrook and Highway 277, I would be very aware of this storm as it approaches your area again. 2-inch hail, maybe even 3 inches. This is getting close to that radar sites, and we're getting a little bit better of a view of it as it approaches that radar site. I would just be alert that there could be some good hail coming into the Benbrook area here in a little bit. Okay, so again, we heard that report just a little bit ago that the Hudson Oak and Aledo area was sounding their sirens. I'm not sure if they're still going off at this time, but at this time, we're not seeing those 2-inch hail reports, but it looks like there's a good chance that there could be a fairly large amount of some small hail falling in that area. And we're getting some reports in Parker County near Willow Park. That's over here just a little bit to the north and west. As you can see, as that storm is moving through, there's the new reports coming in of about half-dollar sized hail. That's the report of half-dollar sized hail just a little bit ago with this storm. I'm going to post another update just for social media real quick. And I'm going to see if I can put a storm track up there in just a second as well. If our social media posting tool will work or load fast enough. Oops. Storm producing large hail near Aledo is moving southeast around 45 miles an hour. Heads up to areas near Benbrook and along Highway 377. Okay, we're going to post that now and go back to radar again. I apologize for going in and out, trying to make sure that all of our viewers across our social media, are getting the information that they need as this storm approaches parts and actually clips parts of the DFW area in Tarrant County. And here's that new radar scan. And as we've mentioned, this is kind of this is the radar site right here, right behind me. And I'll zoom out just a little bit. So this storm is just south of Fort Worth. Here's downtown Fort Worth right now. If you're in Fort Worth, you are seeing some heavy rain right now with some lightning activity. Let's go to the hail core tracker just to ease any fears. It doesn't look like there's any sort of hail core over the Fort Worth area. There's no warning. That includes the immediate downtown Fort Worth area as well. Again, I'll zoom out just a little bit more just to show you the overall area. Again, anywhere from about Arlington to North Richland Hills, Irving, into parts of Denton and Collin County, even up to Louisville. You're getting some heavy rain at the moment, but this is nothing severe from Fort Worth to Louisville to Rockwall. So these are not producing any type of severe weather, whether it's winds or hail at this time. But this storm right here near Louisville, there could be some heavy rain with that. Also here near the Hackberry Creek area along North MacArthur Boulevard and 635, there could be some heavy rain there as well. But the main storm and the only severe storm at this time looks to be here in parts of southwestern Tarrant County and southeastern Parker County. All right, so we're going to do another zoom in on this storm, and here's just another quick tip about reading radar. Again, this is that area that we mentioned. This is the radar site near Crowley, and as you see that circle, this is what we call the cone of silence, and this is the 1 mile radius around the radar that the radar cannot see that close to it, and this storm will be approaching the cone of silence. So when you get far out from the radar, you get an okay view of what's going on, but you don't get the best view. And while this is close to the radar and this is giving us a good signature, As it moves to the south and east, this is kind of an area that you don't get a good signature either, as this is close to the radar site. And this is when you see that beam kind of start to curve up, so it's not really getting a good look as it gets closer to the radar site. So this is again what we call the cone of silence, and this is looking up higher in the atmosphere, and it looks like that storm is still relatively elevated. Let's go back to the enhanced echo tops that we told you about, and again, this is so close to the radar that you're not really going to get a good view of it, as at this point the radar can only see to about 10,000 feet. Here the radar can only see to about 20,000 feet, and then when you finally get to this area outside the radar view, that's when it gets a better view of what's going on aloft. But when you get closer to the radar site, you don't really get that good view, as you do kind of in the sweet spot, just off a little bit of ways from it. Let's go back to reflectivity and show you what's going on. Hail core is approaching Highway 377, estimated is about 2 inches. I think that it's really more like half dollar sized hail at this point. All right, so it looks like it's maintaining its strength enough that the Weather Service is considering a new warning that would include parts of, again, Tarrant, Johnson, and Ellis County. So here is Johnson County, and here is Ellis County. So just a quick heads up for parts of Johnson County and parts of Ellis County. Just be mindful, the storm is maintaining a good strength, so the Weather Service is considering issuing a new downstream warning that would include parts of Johnson and Ellis counties. Let's see, is there any updates on reports? It just looks like mostly either half dollar or quarter sized hail reports coming in. As you can see, even a little bit bigger is 1.75 inch. That's closer to maybe golf ball size, and yeah, you don't like seeing that. Again, this isn't anything significant up in the 3-inch range, but still a rather impressive storm. Continues to maintain a decent strength. Fortunately, it's not in the 2 to 3 inch diameter as it was just a little bit ago, but still quarters to maybe even half dollar sized hail is possible with this storm over parts of southwestern Tarrant County. Let's look at that hail core tracker. Well, actually, before I do that, let's zoom out and just show you. I'm going to take off the radar data, these, and the mesos, and the warnings, and just zoom in. This is the past reports over the last hour or so, as you can see, as the storm moved through parts of Parker County and left parts of Jacksboro and Jack County. You can see we've had reports all the way back to Jack County of almost 2 inch in diameter hail. We've seen reports of hail under an inch. We've seen hail reports of up to almost 2 inches. So again, these are half dollar sized hail reports. These are quarter sized hail reports. And these are going as far back as Jacksboro. And we've seen this storm has been producing large hail since about the Wichita Falls area. So this has been a really strong supercell that has moved across parts of West Texas and is now clipping portions of North Texas and the Metroplex again. So this is why we are on air, as this strong supercell is moving through parts of the area that we cover. And we're going to be staying live just so you get every bit of information that you need as the storm pushes through. Again, Fort Worth, Arlington, Irving, Dallas, there is some heavy rain moving across parts of the region. There is no tornado threat, no hail threat, no wind threat for these areas in Dallas and Fort Worth. Again, the main concern looks to be just west of Mansfield and into parts of Parker County, where you see this yellow polygon here for a severe thunderstorm warning for a storm that could be producing up to half dollar sized hail with it, as well as some 60-mile-an-hour winds. And again, this supercell has been rather strong for quite some time throughout the evening. Okay, so here's the radar site. It's approaching the radar site. This right now is crossing right along the areas where Highway 377, Highway 20, and Highway 820 and Highway 30 meet. So kind of this juncture, if you will, where all these highways start to meet up in western Fort Worth. That hail core is just now over and south of those areas and south of Highway I-20 and just north of Highway 377. Again, this is for western areas of Fort Worth, but this does not include downtown Fort Worth. So just to ease any fears for anyone in downtown Fort Worth, there's really no hail threat for you at this time. Arlington, North Richland Hills, and again, as we mentioned, even Dallas up into portions of Denton County, there is no severe thunderstorm warning for you. You're going to be hearing some heavy rain with this and even some lightning and thunder, but you're not going to be seeing any type of severe weather with it. Again, this main concern is with the storm over portions of southwestern Tarrant County, and as you can see, there's a new hail report that just came in, and that is about quarter-sized hail. And even the other concern with this will be for a rather large amount of small hail that's falling with it as well. This could be one of those storms that it will be throwing out a lot of small hail with some big hail mixed in with it, and you can kind of scoop it up by the handfuls just because it is so strong, and the tops are relatively strong. There's a new scan that just came in just a little bit ago, as you can see. Trying to listen. There's some big raindrops outside. So yeah, we're getting some very heavy rain here in our Irving studios right now. Trying to listen after what's going on outside. Again, no severe weather with that at this time, and we really don't expect these to go severe at all. So you can see really no hail core with it, as well as really no winds with this over the area. But again, the main concern is with this storm over portions of southwestern Tarrant County and in parts of Parker County. Now that things are starting to kind of quiet down a little bit and the storm's starting to weaken, we're going to be going through comments and just kind of looking through. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to Weather 225. We are covering severe weather over portions of Dallas and Fort Worth. I apologize if the stream is kind of choppy and I'm going in and out. Again, there's a lot of issues with Facebook Live, so I apologize if it's going in and out like that. That's our control. But again, we're tracking the severe weather for portions of Parker and Tarrant counties. We're seeing some comments in the comment section. We haven't really had a moment to look at the latest data for tonight across the area. And as I say this, I'm going to zoom out that radar real quick and zoom into where you can see the Metroplex and kind of play a time lapse of the radar over the last hour or so, if you will. And and there's that new warning that just came out. So I'm going to post that real quick. Okay, so new severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Ellis and Johnson County. So we're going to send that out, and then I'll answer the question, kind of look at the data behind the scenes of what we're thinking for storms later tonight and overnight across the area. So with these, you're kind of seeing right now it's kind of a one-man show. We're trying to manage a few things, and you're kind of getting a glimpse into when we post severe weather warnings on our site. We've had a little bit of issues, so if our warnings are delayed tonight, we've had a little bit of issues with our posting tool that we use to kind of send out alerts as quickly as possible among multiple sites. So it's taken a little bit while tonight. I think it's a system error with the program that we use. Getting quite a bit of rainfall over here in Irving. I don't know if you can hear that in the background of this mic, but we're getting a pretty good amount of rainfall in the background, so I apologize if that's loud. And the warning is sent. Now we'll share it to the Instagram sites. There's again that new warning that just came out. For parts of, again, this is Johnson County, this is Tarrant County, and this is Ellis County. So this includes portions of Ellis County, which is just south of Dallas County. And this includes parts of Johnson County. It does not include the Cleburne area. So Cleburne, at this time, I would stay alert just because the storm is still holding a good strength, and you could see this kind of notched area come within parts of eastern Cleburne. But again, at this time, it does not look like downtown Cleburne itself is in this warning as it pushes off to the south and east across, again, North Texas, now headed towards areas south of I-20. And we just posted that there. We're going to take a look at this one more time, and I'm going to answer some questions about the storm tonight. So you can see 1-inch hail, maybe even a little bit bigger with this storm in parts of, again, Tarrant County and into now portions of Johnson and headed towards Ellis County. Parker County, I'm going to zoom in on y'all real quick. This storm is just now leaving Parker County. So Parker County at this time, you'll see some sprinkles behind this activity, but we can say at the moment you're in the clear of that storm, and we should see that warning box kind of start to drop off here in the next little bit. Right now over Crowley and areas along Highway 174, I would be alert for this hail threat as it's coming towards you. Again, radar's not showing a really good view on this at this time, but still you need to be mindful for some maybe 1 to 1.5 inch hail with that storm as it moves towards your area. Again, here is a widespread view of what's going on across the area. And now we have some new activity kind of up towards the Red River. This is not severe, so Gainesville, you're seeing some heavy rain at this time. Maybe some, no, not really a hail threat. I think that hail core indicator might be a little bit off. If there is any hail with that, it would be pea-sized hail, or maybe not even any hail at all, but some brief heavy to moderate rainfall with those. Across the Dallas and Fort Worth area, here near Kaufman, there's a storm that could be producing some heavy rain with that. I'm going to hit the hail core tracker. As you can see, there's these little bitty areas of blue, but these aren't strong at all. So maybe some pea-sized hail, but I wouldn't expect anything bigger than that. Maybe not even any hail at all. But we're definitely seeing some of these darker reds and purples on radar, indicative of not really hail, but more of just heavy rain across the area. So if you're seeing any of this activity, it's not severe across Fort Worth, Dallas, and Kaufman. This is just some heavy rain and lightning across the area, so there's no need to worry about that. Just to ease any fears for our viewers in Dallas, downtown Fort Worth, and here in Kaufman, again, these storms are not severe. Just some heavy rain with it, as well as some lightning activity. It'll make some noise, but there's nothing severe with it. Again, I'll hit the hail core tracker. It'll turn on. There you go. And even this one here near Fort Worth is close to the radar site, but fortunately it looks like it's gone down in size, so that's hopefully a good sign that this storm is finally starting to kind of weaken, but we'll be keeping an eye on it as it continues to move to the south and east. I'm going to look at the newest data coming in for the storms overnight and answer those questions. I won't really be able to show it on the tab here but I'm going to be looking at that latest. This is what we call the HRRR model that I'm going to be looking off to the side here. And that's one of the best, that's one of the better short-range models that we use in forecasting North Texas weather. So I'm going to be looking off to that here at the side. And again, here's the North Texas radar across the area. As I look at this latest data, I will tell you what I'm seeing and what we could expect for that overnight round of storms as this is starting to kind of quiet down and weaken at the moment. Again, if you live near the Bedford area, just be alert for some hail in areas just south of I-20. Hail up to maybe quarter size to $half size will be possible. And if it lags real quick, it's just because we're looking at that data. A new model run coming in at this time. So this one is not fully loaded. Right, let's look at the one from an hour ago and see. Again, it looks like potentially tonight. We'll have to keep an eye out on it. Some of the models are showing kind of a skinny line that moves south around the area. Be taking a look at some models off to the side here as well and seeing what they're saying. But it looks like there could be like a skinny line of storms that moves through the area later tonight. I think looking at some of the model guidance at this time, we'll be keeping an eye out on it, and if there's any warnings, we'll post about it. But it looks like really, if there was any threat for any type of strong activity, it'd be for areas in eastern North Texas, based off of the latest model runs here in the last little while or so. There's some models that are showing a little bit more extreme activity, if you will, with more widespread shower and general thunderstorm risks, but not necessarily a severe weather risk. However, looking at some of these models that are just coming in the last couple of hours, it looks like there could be a skinny line of storms that moves in through the area probably between about 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. Across the general area that we cover. Not all of these would be severe, but there's a chance that a few of them could be stronger in nature. Maybe even severe, but it looks like the severe weather threat overnight will be just a little bit lower. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that activity overnight. Let me look at one more model real quick. And when I mention eastern North Texas, and again, if you're just now tuning in with us, I'm talking about the overnight severe weather potential, storm potential, if you will, that has been mentioned. This is the current area on radar. But again, if you're just now tuning in, I'm talking about tonight's forecast after this activity. There could be a skinny line that moves in later, probably about 3 a.m. to about 6 or 7 a.m. across the entire area that we cover. It would clip through parts of the Dallas and Fort Worth area. Some could be stronger in nature, but this looks to be more general thunderstorms. But there could be some stronger storms kind of out to the east based off of the model runs. But even that, it's nothing significant. And there's some models that honestly, it looks like, there's some models that honestly look like it could just be just showers and nothing of to concern. So again, there could be another round of storms later tonight. These could have the chance to be stronger with a little bit of 45, maybe even 55 mile-an-hour winds and some smaller hail with it. But it looks like the best activity might be for areas just north and east of DFW for that more heavy activity. But there could still be a skinny line that moves through the later tonight that we'll have to be keeping an eye on. There's a chance that it will move into the area and it will be general thunderstorms. There's a chance that it could be a little bit stronger, and there's even a chance that it might not even affect our area at all. It could be fairly weak. But because there is a threat, we will be covering that and keeping an eye on that as we head into the evening and overnight hours. So stay tuned with us. If there's any warnings, we'll let you know. But again, at the current moment, until we get that activity later, if it happens, we're covering this activity for now as it moves across portions of southern Tarrant County. Here is Tarrant County, here is Parker County, and we have a new report of about a 1 inch and a quarter hail. That is just north of the Bedford area, near the Crowley area, I believe. There we go. And again, there's that cone of silence that we mentioned here a minute ago. So we're getting that large hail report, and as you can see, because it is so close to the radar, that our hail tracking tool is not going to be working as well because it is so close to the radar site in that cone of silence where the radar can't see about a mile out. So we're going to be confirming that there's still 1 1/4 inch hail occurring with this storm as it moves through parts of Crowley. If you live in Joshua along Highway 174, if you live along Highway I-35 just to the south and west of Mansfield, I would be alerted to this storm because 1 1/4 to even 1 1/2 inch hail is not out of the question as we're seeing these reports still coming in. Let me see if I can get that tracking tool up real quick. One more time, see if we can get a track on this. Connect it to the radar. There we go, folks. And we'll get a little track up here real quick. Put it right about, let's say, here. And we'll slow down that speed so it's not as... Okay, so we'll read off, and I'm going to zoom this out just a little bit so you can see that cone. And this, we're moving it to the south and east at about 47 miles an hour, just about 2 miles faster than the warning has it. As you can see, it'll be about at I-35 here by about, that's about 11:10 here at I-35, just south of Midlothian along Highway 67. That'll be about 11:20. It'll be near Waxahachie about probably 11:45. If this storm again continues to hold its strength, we're hoping that this continues to weaken. As you can see, even though that is 1 1/4 inch hail, that is a lot smaller than it was back in western Texas when we saw almost that baseball and even bigger sized hail up in those regions. But fortunately, it's not the giant hail that we were seeing earlier. Okay, so here's the times of arrival. For some reason, it's not popping up on there, so I apologize for that. I'll read it off, though. Garden Acres at 11:03. Joshua 11:04. Same with Burleson at 11:04. Lindbergh at 11:04. Oak Grove at 11:04. Cross Timber 11:05. Kennedale at 11:06. Briar Oaks at 11:07. Bisbee at 11:09. Rita at 11:09. Mansfield by 11:14, excuse me, and Brighton at 11:19. So that is the times of arrival for this storm that we're seeing over portions of Tarrant and Johnson County, excuse me, as it continues to move to the south and east and keep relatively strong. Again, we're keeping an eye on this as it continues to move to the south and east across portions of North Texas and starts to leave the immediate Dallas and Fort Worth area. Just to be clear, the Dallas County area has no areas with a warning in it. Dallas is not in a warning. Downtown Fort Worth is not in a warning. So this is just clipping portions of our DFW counties, and that county being Tarrant County. So right now that storm is located over Crowley near the radar site. As we speak. you're tuning into Weather 225, I'd like to thank you for tuning into this broadcast and supporting our weather page by following us and using us as your weather source. I'm Joshua Weisel here in the Weather 225 Storm Center. Again, we're tracking storms over portions of the area this morning. We'll start to kind of break off from coverage here in a little bit and take a break from it as this storm looks to finally start to weaken. Hopefully it continues that trend. We'll be keeping a close eye on it as it continues to move away from the cone of silence, and we'll get a little bit better of a view on it. We're still getting some reports of about 1 to 1.25 inch hail with it as it is over the Crowley area. So we're keeping an eye on the reports as they're coming in. We're giving you the latest information as it continues to move over portions of southern Tarrant County into portions of Johnson County. And again, here's our current track with it, and hopefully you'll be able to see it. But again, this will be right over Highway 87 at about 11:16. That's south and west, of Midlothian. By 11:16, the storm is moving to the southeast at around 45 miles an hour. Let's see if there's any new reports coming in. So for folks tuning in, if you're wondering why I'm looking off to the side, this is how the chroma key or green screen, if you will, works. So off to my left, I have a laptop that I am coordinating with reports, our social media, and working the radar. And off to my right, I have the green screen right behind me, but in order for me to see where I'm pointing to and to see new updates on radar and reports, I have a screen off to my right that I look at, and obviously the camera right in front of me. So while I'm doing this, I look off to the side just to see locations and some of the icons that I put on the radar, and this helps me to look around on the green screen and point out to you where it is, just so I'm not standing in front of this and kind of trying to figure out where my hand is being placed. When I'm looking off to the side, I'm looking off at a screen over here to my right, so I can point out to you exactly where this activity is occurring while I'm on front of the green screen. Again, off to my left is my laptop where I'm coordinating, making sure the stream's running and running warnings and maneuvering the radar. And again, off to my right, this is my eyes. As I do this, it'll show me where on the radar I am pointing at. So that's just a quick little bit of information on how the green screen works. And this is how most places do it. You have the screens off to the side where you get a good look at what you're looking at. Sometimes you'll have a screen in front of you, but we just have the one screen off to the side and my laptop off to my left. And that's kind of how my operation works here at our Irving studios. So again, if you see me looking off to the side, that's just how the green screen works, just so you know a little bit of information for behind the scenes with our broadcasts. Here's the latest scan coming in on radar. And again, south of Mansfield, just north of Cleburne, that storm is continuing to kind of move over portions of southern Tarrant County. It is now entering mostly the Johnson County portion of the warning as it moves off to the south and east at around 45 miles an hour. And it seems like we're getting some 40-mile-an-hour winds over portions of Tarrant County at this point. So it looks like it's mostly just a large hail threat with it as it continues to move off to the south and east. Again, maybe some 50-mile-an-hour winds, maybe some 60-mile-an-hour winds. So just be mindful of that. But fortunately, the storm looks to be finally weakening as we're seeing less reports coming in of hail. And hopefully that's a good sign. This is more of a populated area, so you'd think if this is producing any sort of large hail that we would get those reports coming in. So it's a good thing that we're not seeing that on the radar at this time. So that's fortunate for us over for areas in southern Tarrant County and northern Johnson County. If you're in the warning, just stay alert, continue to stay alert, that is, of this hail threat and even this wind threat, just to be safe. This storm has had a history of producing some large hail with it. So just a quick heads up for the areas that are in Johnson and Ellis County in the warning. We're still going to be saying about 1 to 2 inch hail just to be safe until this warning dies off or until the weather service says otherwise with this. But fortunately, we're not seeing necessarily 2-inch hail with it anymore. We're not seeing that very large hail that we saw with it a long time ago, back when it was in parts of Young and Jack County, excuse me. So that's fortunate at this time. I'm going to take that track off real quick. There we go. All right, so folks, time now is 11:10. I'm again Joshua Weisler here in the Weather 225 Storm Studios. We're going to be looking again at the severe weather that is going over portions of North Texas. That includes parts of Johnson, Ellis, and Tarrant counties. Let me zoom out real quick. If you're just now joining us in the storm studio for our coverage, we have had a relatively strong storm that has produced large hail as it has moved from western North Texas almost back as far as the Wichita Falls area and is now moving through our area. It has produced hail anywhere from about 3 to 3.5 inch hail at times. Fortunately, at this time in the Dallas and Fort Worth Metroplex, we're not seeing any hail like that. We're seeing hail up to about quarter size to maybe even $half size as it moves over portions of the Tarrant County, Johnson County area. And at this time, it looks like it's in a weakening phase. So it could be more quarter-sized hail than it is the larger-sized hail, as you can see. We've had reports of quarter-sized hail to even 1.25 inch hail with it when it was back near the Crowley area. But fortunately, we haven't seen too many new reports coming in of any large hail. Okay, so I'm going to push this back over to the west a little bit and just show you the overall view. Take off some of these tools so it is less cluttered. There's some new activity north here along our Red River counties. This is near Cook and Grayson County and even Collin County. There is nothing severe with this activity. This is all just some spotty new shower and storm development. These could be loud with lightning and brief moderate to heavy rainfall, but nothing severe with this. Further down into the Dallas and Fort Worth Metroplex, right here, as you can see, rain is starting to leave the Dallas area at this time. So portions of Rockwall County and Kaufman County, there's going to be some loud showers and storms, but nothing severe. Here in southwestern, Dallas County, some louder thunderstorm activity, nothing severe. We have one severe thunderstorm warning that is in parts of Ellis, Johnson, and Tarrant County. This storm is now leaving Tarrant County and mostly in the Johnson County portion of the warning, and that is for some large hail up to $half size possible and some 55, 60 mile an hour winds with it as well. So this fortunately looks to be weakening just a little bit more. We're hoping that it continues to take on this weakening trend and no longer be that big of a threat. So hopefully this warning, this storm will finally start to weaken to the point that it doesn't need a warning anymore. But until then, we're going to be tracking this storm as it moves over portions of the Dallas and Fort Worth Metroplex and deliver the best information we can to our viewers. So thank you for tuning in. Let's take a look and zoom out now. And as you can see, I'm going to zoom in. This is not what we're covering right now, but this is what's going on in Oklahoma. This could be the next round of storms here into the overnight and early morning hours. As you can see, this new scattered activity over portions of Oklahoma near the Oklahoma City area and west. This could be the next round of storms that we see tonight, and there's a chance that it will move into North Texas. It could be just general thunderstorms, or we could see some stronger activity, but I'm not anticipating any sort of widespread severe activity with it, as there's some models that are predicting that it is too weak to even enter the Metroplex, and there's some models that are saying that it could enter the Metroplex and be a widespread shower and thunderstorm event. Not necessarily severe, but just widespread shower and thunderstorm threat. So we're going to be continuing to monitor that threat in the overnight hours. This isn't something that you need to be alert and awake the entire night for worrying about. Just make sure that you have a way to receive warnings just to be safe. So there's many ways you can receive warnings. That's NOAA Weather Radio. That's a mobile app. We recommend Storm Shield just because it is free and it gets good alerts, or even Barren Critical Weather. We're not sponsored to say these, but these are the apps that we use in our personal life to receive warnings overnight when we're not covering something or we're out of town or anything like that. So that's just a few recommendations right there. But again, we're going to be keeping an eye out on that. There's still a chance that we could see some showers and thunderstorms overnight. A few could be strong. Not all of them will be strong, but it's just something to be mindful of. Let's go back to the Dallas and Fort Worth area. And again, for the activity overnight, we wouldn't worry too much about it. Like we said, you can go to bed tonight. Don't be afraid or worried about it. Just make sure that you have a way to receive warnings just to be safe. Because there's a chance that we won't even see any severe weather out of it. It could just be some general showers and storms. But we just want to make sure that we ease fears, while also letting you know the best thing to do is not go to bed or stay up all night afraid. Just make sure that you have a way to receive warnings just to be safe. Let's zoom in on that new scan that's coming in. As you can see, that the warning box is kind of trimmed off most of Tarrant County, thankfully. So areas that are just west of I-35 in southern Tarrant County, you're in the clear. So Crowley and west, you're in the clear at this time. The storm looks to be weakening, fortunately. We're still close to that radar site, but it does not look as significant. And here's our hail core tracker. That's still close to the radar site, but you're not seeing those reds and pinks. So this is some good news that the storm is most likely weakening. And I think this warning actually is set to expire at 11:30, so I'm curious to see what the Weather Service says, if they're going to let this expire or not. So we're going to be continuing to watch this. We're probably going to go off air here in about a little bit or so, just to take a break, recoup, and just take a look at everything and the data for later tonight. But at this point in time, it doesn't look like the storm is too threatening from now. So that's some good news. Yeah, we're going to zoom out real quick. Just a heads up for areas near Waxahachie. If this storm continues and strengthens back again, you would be downstream of this storm. In fact, let's actually zoom out real quick. I'm going to put up, this is kind of a different radar tool to show you just kind of the area. And there's kind of this little outflow band from dying storms here to the south that could be seeing some 45 mile per hour winds here in the Dallas area, up to even the Sherman areas. You see this kind of curve here with this little area of outflow. The National Weather Service is talking about that at this time. Where we see that kind of curve, this is air kind of dispersing from this storm, and it could be causing some areas of maybe some 40 to 45 mile an hour winds. So if you're seeing these gusty winds in this area, there's nothing severe in Cook, Grayson, or Collin County, even in Dallas County. Again, these are just general thunderstorms with a threat for just moderate to heavy rainfall and even lightning. So that's good. And it looks like the National Weather Service is going to go ahead and let this warning expire. So we're going to go ahead and take a break from coverage. If anything changes, we'll let you know and we'll post an update. So don't worry about that. But for now, this warning looks to be ending here at 11:30. So in the next 11 minutes or so. So that's some good news that this storm has finally reached the area that it can finally dissipate and not be as much of a threat as it was earlier. Again, we saw some very large hail with it at times and some damaging winds. Again, it had kind of a hook feature with it for a little bit of time, but again, the conditions were not favorable for tornadoes. as much, and these storms were so elevated that it really could not develop a tornadic threat with it. So that's some good news, that it was mostly just a damaging hail threat with these storms. Again, the National Weather Service is going to let this warning expire, so we're going to go ahead and go off air. And as I say that, there's a new wind advisory for the DFW area till 7 a.m. tomorrow. That just came out, and that's for a good chunk of North Texas. So, okay, so we're going to be going off of air here. And for like the reports that we were seeing, again, the winds that are in eastern Dallas, the eastern Dallas-Fort Worth area near Hunt County, you're seeing some winds. We saw that comment just a little bit ago. We're reporting the weather, and we're reporting the most concerning storm. If you're seeing winds in the area, there's no severe weather for the rest of the area. There's not even a watch for this area in eastern North Texas. So for the comments that we saw about the winds in eastern North Texas, we get that it might be a little bit scary because of the stronger winds, but this is from dispersing air from this dying storm, and that is just about 40 to 45 mile an hour winds. It's nothing severe. It's nothing that can cause too much damage. It could blow some lawn furniture around, but again, eastern North Texas is not seeing any sort of severe threat. North Texas, up here along the Red River counties and even Collin County, is not seeing any severe weather threat. Off near Kaufman County and to the east, there's no severe weather threat. So for those that are wondering, because they're seeing some gusty winds, there's no reason to worry. You're just going to see some gusty 40 to 45 mile an hour winds. Again, we're not really looking at the Facebook chat right now because we're managing so many things off to the side with reports and other information coming into us, so we can relay that information. And we were focusing on the main concern, which was the one warned storm that we had in the area. So I apologize that we didn't get to other areas, but we did not have any storms in any other areas. So we did not really focus anywhere else, just because this was the main storm of concern. So again, if you live areas around the area and are seeing some gusty winds, this storm is dispersing because it's dying, and it's kind of shooting out some winds across the area up to Sherman and even across portions of Dallas. You're going to get some gusty 40 to 45 mile an hour winds. Again, this isn't anything damaging, but this is definitely, it's going to definitely cause some sound. It could maybe shake up and blow around some outdoor lawn furniture, but I can assure you that there is nothing severe with any of these storms. There's not even any storms in Hunt County right now or Fannin County. There's the closest storm to that area would be in McKinney, and even this, if I look at it, there's no hail core with it, and the radar, there's no wind with it. We know that it looks a little bit brighter up here to the counties to the north, but this is not really what's occurring. Right here where you see these winds that are kind of arch right there, that's the 45 mile an hour winds that we were mentioning from this dying storm. But again, there's no other severe storms across the area. Just this one storm that will be allowed to expire here in the next 5 minutes or so across Tarrant, Johnson, and Ellis County. But if you see any other activity across the area tonight, for the next few hours or so before we see that line kind of move across the Red River County, nothing else should be severe. Again, just some heavy rainfall, maybe some gusty winds because of this dispersing wind area coming from the dying storm. But right now there's nothing else severe. And the one severe storm that we have that we've been covering, the warning is going to die off here in about the next 5 minutes or so. Current time is 11:24. That warning will expire at 11:30. So that is the area I'm concerned that we're starting to not see that anymore. So hopefully that helps with your fear. We don't want anyone to be worried. Again, no severe weather across any other portions of North Texas right now. We get that wind can be a little bit scary sounding, especially when you see these reports coming in because of this storm. But again, there's nothing to worry about across the rest of North Texas at the moment. But again, we know that some of these storms are loud, but there's nothing severe other than this current storm that will end its warning here in about 5 minutes or so. And the National Weather Service is not. The National Weather Service is not saying any storms have any sort of threats at this time. And as I say that, you can see that warning has officially expired 5 minutes early from its expiration date. So that's some good news. Again, let's hit the hail core tracker across the area. That storm that was warned for a fairly long time, we're not seeing really any sort of hail core with it. These storms to the north, we see these little blue areas, but these are nothing of concern. We're going to hit the velocities with it. There's still probably a little bit of winds with that storm as it continues to die off and move to the south and east. So I'd say probably about 45, maybe 50 mile-an-hour winds are still possible with that storm in parts of Johnson into Ellis County. Areas kind of to the north and east of the area from Sherman to about Hunt County to Dallas could still be seeing about 40 to 45 mile-an-hour winds ahead and away from that storm because it is dying and it's dispersing some wind out of it. So you're going to be seeing some gusty winds, but I assure you there is nothing else severe across North Texas. In fact, there is nothing severe across North Texas at this time at 11:26 p.m. We just have this broad area of some heavy rain at this point, not really any threat to it anymore. And then we have these storms along our Red River counties now moving into portions of Denton and Collin County. We'll keep an eye out on them, but it doesn't look like these will be anything severe. And then again, we're going to be watching this line of storms that's up here in Oklahoma as it pushes south towards our area late overnight into the early morning hours. So again, if you're worried about these, don't go to bed worried. Don't stay up all night because there's a chance that these will enter the area and they may not even be severe. But because there's a threat, just be mindful of it. Again, no reason to go to bed worried or scared of these. Just make sure that you have a way to receive warnings just to be safe. And like we mentioned, there's a lot of ways that you can receive warnings. NOAA Weather Radio, but we recommend the Storm Shield app or the Barron Critical Weather app. They're free, I believe, on the Google Play Store, but I know that they're on the Apple Store for sure, and they're for free. We're not sponsored by either. These are just some apps that I personally use that I like warning-wise that get you the best information that I personally use myself and that I think that viewers at home would appreciate. We don't have our own app at this time. I wish we did, but until then, we have the options that I'm mentioning to you. So if you're worried about the threat for overnight into early morning, that's the best thing that you can do. So don't go to bed scared. Don't go to bed worried. Just make sure that you have a way to receive warnings just to be safe. We'll take a look at the latest data when we finally go off from coverage here. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as that moves towards the Red River counties late tonight. But again, for now, the time is 11:30 almost. It's 11:28. But zooming in, just some areas of some heavy rain activity across the area. So just some loud thunderstorms across the area at this time. Again, some 45 mile-an-hour winds are possible across parts of the area east and northeast just because the storm to the south has finally died off and it's dispersing wind from it. So you'll be seeing some 45 to maybe even some brief 50 mile-an-hour winds, but I don't really think it'll be 50. It'll be more like 40 to 45 mile-an-hour winds with it as those winds kind of travel to the north and east away from the storm. And even areas south of this storm could be seeing some winds from this as this storm continues to gradually weaken and disperse its winds from it as well. So again, one more time just before we go off of air. Nothing severe across portions. In fact, nothing severe across anywhere in North Texas that we cover. So that's a very good sign. We've been on the air for about 2 hours now, so a fairly long time. So that's good that this has finally sort of died off. Again, you can go to bed tonight. Just be sure that you have a way to receive warnings if you're worried about it. But about the